Hi everyone, it's Margaret Manning here with Retire Different. Retire Different is a place for people who want to ask the right questions to make great financial decisions in order to have a fabulous retirement. And that we have some help today with these questions that come up when you're planning for retirement. Two amazing experts that I'd like to introduce you to. The first is Pam Kruger. Pam is an investing and a financial expert. She is an author and a TV personality, co-host of PBS Money Track, and the creator of something called Wealth Ramp, which is an online tool that connects consumers to fiduciary advisors. And my other expert guest tonight is Beth Brulick. Now, Beth is a financial advisor at Abacus Wealth Partners in California. And this company is a registered investment advisor firm, which means that they abide by the fiduciary standards, which is very important, and we'll talk about that later. Beth is passionate about educating and empowering her customers. So welcome, Beth and Pam.
Thank you.
Hi, Margaret. Great to be back.
It's great to have you here, Pam. Now, Pam and I have done a chat. Yeah, you put your mug. I have a glass of water. I'll get my mug for the next chat. And Pam and I have done interviews before. And Beth, you're very welcome to join us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I appreciate it.
Well, this is going to be fun because, we have women in our community who are at all different stages of retirement, planning for it, in the middle of it, or right in it. And they have questions about how to manage that transition. And one of the topics that comes up a lot, we've talked about this before, is downsizing and this tendency to want to minimize, simplify. I mean, I know that's in my own personal experience what I went through. But I'd like, Pam, for you to get your opinion on that. Is that the right approach when you're approaching retirement?
Thanks a lot. I think it can be. It can be. There are a lot of times that when you really think about all the different ways you can stretch out your savings to last over the next 25 or 30 years, if you're going to dial back on work, dialing back on your lifestyle. What we mean by downsizing is, maybe you do sell your family home and you move to that, much more economical condominium, where life is less expensive.
Right.
But I think that you bring up a really good point when we touched on this once before about it doesn't mean that it's for everyone. And there are some things that people financially with your money really need to think about before you just take that leap and assume that smaller is less expensive. And that's why Beth is such a great expert on this, because she specializes in helping people make the transition into retirement and basically adjust their incomes accordingly. So maybe I can ask Beth, what are the circumstances do you think that downsizing does make sense? And then we can talk about when it doesn't make sense.
Sure. Like everything, communication is so important, particularly if there's two of you making this decision together. But when it can make sense is if there is just too much space and you don't need it and your mortgage is high, your property taxes are high. So it can make a lot of sense and it does simplify life. So if the size will work, and once again, communication is so imperative with a significant other, should there be one, where will you hang out? I have many clients that downsize and find themselves wanting to kill each other because there's not enough space. There's so many things to consider, including the stuff.
Yeah, Beth, what happens when your kids, you've now downsized to a condominium and it's perfect for you and you're single. And then all of a sudden, you stop and you think about how much money it's going to cost for your kids, adult children and their kids, your grandkids to come visit you. Things like that.
Excellent point, Pam. Such a good point. The holidays happen, and then all of a sudden they all want to come home, which is wonderful, but you have to put them in a hotel. Once they get a certain age, like over 23, the air mattress isn't so fun anymore. So there's those sorts of costs that you want to decide about. And most people do like to set the dining room table and welcome the family back home. So you need to look at how often that might happen and where you'll put them.
I think what you've said here, both of you, is so important, though, is that part of the whole process of merging into retirement is deciding the lifestyle that you really want. Do you want this lifestyle to be you and your partner, or even just you by yourself? Or are you really emotionally attached to those grandkids and children. Maybe they live close and they want to pop over more frequently. But I think that, but I was going to ask you, Beth, though, the kinds of questions that a person who's sitting opposite you, pretend I'm one of your clients and I've got a big house, a 3-bedroom house, and I'm thinking of moving into a condo. I'm living alone.
Okay.
What are the questions that you would ask me when in making that decision? Should I sell and downsize or not?
So first I'd say, what is it that concerns you about the size of your home now?
It's too expensive.
Okay, that's a really good point.
Or it's more expensive than I want to spend on housing.
Okay. So what I want to ask you is we need to evaluate that carefully, because sometimes people think that's the case, but they forget things like property taxes. Many states freeze your property taxes in place to a large extent, particularly as you age. And if you move the home, then that freeze is removed. So you need to really do a careful analysis.
Yeah.
So that tax could actually go up.
They can.
I want to catch that point because that's important, because I don't think that people realize that taxes could actually be higher when you do move to a smaller home.
Absolutely. And you could have a fixed mortgage rate that's phenomenal that you cannot then get again. So it's really, you need a professional to help you work through the numbers very carefully, because there's always more detail than you expect. And the other question I'd ask you, Margaret, is how often do you think your family would come visit?
Right.
Like to have space for them?
Yeah. So this is a really interesting point, though. I mean, people there's many people in our community who have big houses who feel that, downsizing is the right choice. But what I've heard from you now is that you've got tax implications. I was just thinking, as you said that when you go to a retirement home, say you move into a condo in a community, you've got homeowners dues and other hidden expenses that you might not have thought about. So,
and frankly, the politics of HOAs, homeowners associations, people that have lived in a single home forget about all of that. And it doesn't mean it's the wrong decision. It just means you need to think about it carefully first, because it's expensive to unwind.
Pam, you were going to say something.
Moving into a condominium, and I've had friends who have done this as well, even from a small house, it's that privacy factor as well. It can be a bit shocking. And, it's funny because we're talking about financial planning, and this is financial advice. And I love that we're wrapping all this together, because I think that a lot of people don't realize that these are the conversations that you have.
Right.
When you're talking to a financial planner like yourself, who holistically looks at all the considerations that affect you and your money. So loss of privacy, because all of a sudden you have shared walls with other people, it might just feel like, oh my God, what have I done? So do you recommend people take this in steps, or how do you go about making that decision?
Definitely. It's something that not to be taken lightly. You need to try to visit friends that have done that and see what you think. Try to imagine yourself in that, smaller space with, to your point, with neighbors on either wall, with surround systems. The base could, drive you crazy when you're not used to that. These are things you don't think about if you've been in a home for 30 years. Now, there are pluses for sure. There's no grass to be cut. There's no pool to be maintained, but it's a trade-off. And I suggest that you think about it room by room. I recommend that my clients literally walk through their house. Yeah. There's the emotional component too. Many people underestimate how hard it is to leave those family memories behind.
It's interesting that you were talking about financial planning, like you said, Pam, in a way that's more holistic. It's more like, a social experience, like talk to your family, talk to friends who have, it's so wonderful that you said that, because we sometimes think that we're so isolated. I mean, I know when I made a big move a few years ago and I downsized, not just my house, I sold that and at a loss because of the situation at the time, but I packed all my goods and downsized my house and everything. I felt like I was totally alone. Like there was nobody to talk to. I was a little embarrassed that I had to sell my house at a lower price than I wanted to. Do you know what I mean? It was just that sense of isolation where I didn't want to go to a financial planner because I hadn't even met you, Pam, and I knew that I was going to not have a good conversation with someone that didn't have my best interests at heart. So anyway,
how do you feel now? Do you feel like, and this is the whole conversation that we're starting here is about quote unquote right-sizing, right?
Yes.
So it's not downsizing is the answer. It's what you're pointing out and what Beth is pointing out, that right-sizing is the answer. How do you feel today, Margaret? Do you feel like you're flourishing and thriving in your environment now?
I would be really dishonest if I said I hadn't gone through a tough time, that I really hadn't had a lot of moments where I thought I was out of control, that my finances were out of control. But I've written a lot about this for another community that I manage, and it was, 60 and Me. And those are women who are very much like me, who felt that isolation. I've got some practical things I did, and, in terms of dealing with the process of disentangling and right-sizing. That's the better word. And yes, I do feel like I have moved through it. Not just physically, I've moved into a much smaller space. That was my decision and it worked for me. As we talked about, not everyone, will work for, but also mentally, in terms of knowing that I'm good enough, that I didn't need all that stuff. there was a psychological growth and liberation, freedom. So yes, I really feel I've broken through, and I'm very, really, very happy where I am now. I mean, I'm on a moderately fixed budget, but that works for me. It works for me. So yes, yes, but it's not easy, and I'm really grateful, Beth, for your feedback, because tell me some of the mistakes that people have made, or not mistakes, but tell us some of the decisions people have made that maybe with better information.
So capital gain, something we haven't discussed yet. Capital gains can be brutal. So if you've owned a home for a long time, many people, do have gains. And when you pay the IRS, you realize that, wow, if we hadn't moved, then we might have been better off if our property taxes might have been lower and our capital gains could have been avoided. So they're just numbers that need to be crunched. And these are big, big decisions. Something that should not be taken lightly. I have just as many clients that are thrilled to downsize, sometimes because they don't want the company, frankly. That's why these decisions can only be made by an individual.
Yeah. Beth, I have a question for you. When we started out, we started to talk about, examples where downsizing, doesn't work. So in terms of right-sizing, because you have a lot of clients and you've done this, you've walked a lot of different women, especially through this process. Can you draw us a picture of what right-sizing feels like when it's done and you feel like, oh, good, this person is feeling like this was a win?
It's a great, great question, because it's not just about the size of the number of rooms and the size of the home. It's your things. And Margaret, you referred to this. We accumulate memories, and many of these memories take the place of, it's a photo, it's a knickknack, it's something we picked up on our journey in Europe with, a beloved family memory. So when I started to say you walk through each room, and I mean that you really walk through each room and you look around and you say, what is important to me? Because life, it's all about feeling in control, but feeling like you're tied with your past and with your future at the same time. So if you walk through room by room and you say, this has to go, or this doesn't have to go, and then you can figure out, okay, then I need 3 bedrooms, and one of them needs to be an office, and this is my budget, and this is what the numbers will look like. And if the problem is people don't often do the homework first. You need to do more thinking than you do moving. And then, one cost I'm sorry, Pam, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say that, don't you think in your position as an advisor that it's really hard for people to know how to approach you to, like Margaret's point, to bring up this conversation about right-sizing? So when they're walking in the door to ask you, because so many people don't even think about a financial advisor getting into this kind of discussion. You think of a financial advisor as, oh, I'm supposed to be talking about the stock market and investing.
Exactly.
It's not. It's the whole picture of your life. So what kind of tips might you have, since you're in that position, to help people kind of get their arms around discussing this and asking the questions?
So frankly, I think that if your financial advisor isn't asking questions such as these, they're not truly your fiduciary. They're not your financial advisor, because this is an enormous decision that does have enormous implications for your future. And to your point, 25, 30, 35 years of possible no income earning, no income stream. So they need to be asking these questions. And if they're not, then find a new one. There's plenty of fiduciaries out there that really, truly, truly do care about you first. And that's what you should ask for. That's what you should demand.
Okay, I'm excited. No, seriously, this has been a really interesting conversation because, Retire Different as a site is talking about retiring differently. And when we have this kind of conversation, it really reinforces for me the importance of these kinds of human conversations around money. money can be so black and white and so abstract and so terrifying. But when you start feeling like you're talking to someone like you, Beth, who get it, I mean, who would think a financial advisor would advise you to walk around your house and think about what the meaning of those possessions and how much you could live without them or free yourself up from them. So it's just been very enlightening for me as a consumer. I mean, I'm just listening like everybody else as to who I should be talking to. And Pam, you've got this wealth ramp. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your this tool? Because finding fiduciaries is probably easy for you, Beth, because you live around them. But the average person may wonder. So Pam, what does someone do?
Oh God, there's a lot to it. So that's why I created Wealth Ramp specifically to help individuals find the right individual financial advisors, because even if an advisor is a fiduciary, if you will, or claims to be a fiduciary, that doesn't necessarily mean they're competent, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they are a good fit for you. Depending upon what you're looking for. Beth happens to specialize in retirement strategies and helping people through this process. But not all advisors do what Beth does. So Wealth Ramp connects the individual to the right fiduciary, fee-only financial advisor, whom I have personally vetted. And I have to tell you, I'm kind of a jerk when it comes to financial advisors.
Yes, it's true.
I don't like most of them. I'm sorry. It's not that I don't like these people. I don't like what they do, most of them.
I mean, I know we haven't got a lot of time to carry. These conversations can go on, and I want to make it a length of conversation that people can absorb and then think about their own questions, and then we'll come back. But I would love if you could tell me, maybe in just 3 sentences, how somebody could walk into an office with someone like Beth. I mean, Beth, not everyone is like Beth, but how would they find the Beths of the world? What are the questions that you could start right off asking a financial advisor to figure out if they are, the right fiduciary guide for you?
I'll tell you what, I'll do a quick answer and then toss it over to Beth. Okay. My answer to that is, who are you? Don't worry about the advisor. Who are you? Shopping for the advisor and searching based on what's most important to you. Okay. So if you have a special situation with special needs child or something, or you have your situation, you need to try to align your situation with the advisor.
We're 100%. They should be asking more questions and doing less talking, because they need to learn about you and what makes you tick and what's important to you and your dreams.
Wow, I think that's such a powerful way of looking at financial advising. And I think you guys are turning things on the head here. It's just turning it into a human experience where you actually judge someone by how they care about your life and your lifestyle and your future than just their own pocketbook and their own success financially. It's been really wonderful. Do you have any advice, Beth, for people that are right now sitting at home? I can hear these people in our communities, talking, okay, where do I start? That woman, I want someone like her. You're in California, so pretend they're in Texas.
They need fee only. Pam said it. It's so important. They're not earning their income from some product they're putting you in, an insurance policy or something that may not be best for you. That's imperative. If they look under fiduciary, registered investment advisory firms have to be fiduciaries. Right. Congress is still trying to come up with a fiduciary standard. They're not doing a very good job of it, frankly. But if you look for someone who's part of a registered investment advisory firm, they are.
Yeah, or check out wealthramp.com.
That makes it a lot easier.
Yes, it does.
Well, we want to keep it open here. I mean, it's great that there's lots of options, and I want people to feel they've got choices. But Pam, you've done a lot of work. I know you've stayed up many late nights putting this list together, talking to people, and getting to the people who have a heart, who really care about you and your specific issues and needs.
And Beth is on our platform.
Yay!
Yes, and proudly so. So proud to be there.
Well, Beth, thank you so much for joining us today. Pam, as always, it's a joy to talk with you. You bring a fresh outlook to financial planning. And we've got a couple of more videos that we're going to record on some specific topics. So stay tuned for those. But if you've got any questions, Pam, you're at, oh, goodness me, I should know this. PamKruger.com? No.
PamKruger.com is the website, and Pam at wealthramp.com is the email.
And Beth, how are you contactable, or through your company, or do you have a website of your own?
Beth at abacuswealth.com.
abacuswealth.com. Okay. All right. I want a cup of tea too, Pam. You've got me thinking.
Black Dog from Martha's Vineyard with my tea.
Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you, Pam. We'll talk again soon. Bye for now. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our Retire Different YouTube channel and check out our website at retiredifferent.com. We are a community of people who are asking questions and trying to make good financial decisions so that we can have an amazing retirement. We'll be looking at our relationship to money and also places that we can go for support, advice, and inspiration.